definitely tips for dads and things I've been through. Sometimes you have to allow them to struggle, meaning that you can't rescue them from everything. And some things are done by prayer, definitely releasing them to the Lord, but actually being there for them, in the ways that you can. And I would say that might just be a listening ear, that might be an encouraging word. There's way different facets to do it. But I would say trusting God and letting go.
Welcome to the Faithful Fathering Podcast. Thank you again for joining us. This is Rick Wirtz, founder and president of Faithful Fathering, where we encourage and equip dads to be faithful fathers, and we work to reinvigorate the church on the fathering front as well. In this podcast series, we're making that transition from summer to back to school. I call it the Back to School series. We've talked a little bit about the 3 R's of education, reading, writing, and arithmetic in the school, but then the 3 R's of education in the home, the relationship, religion, and rules. We've also talked about the teacher season of fathering and how we prepare kids for those early years of school. And then recently in the last segment, we talked about the coach season of fathering, where our kids are going to experience their first failed tests, their first inability to make a team or make band. These are the valleys that we're coaching our kids through in those teen years. And in this segment, we're going to be talking about the back to school when we're in a counselor season. That's where kids are either making the transition to go to college or go to work, whatever the case may be. It's a different season of fathering. And with that, I just use this as an opportunity to encourage you to check out our latest publication called The Seasons of Fathering. You can get it on our website or through Amazon. Either way, just look up Seasons of Fathering and Rick Wirtz, Faithful Fathering. So in this session, I've got dear friend and father of 5, husband and father, and he's also the operations manager for Faithful Fathering. So it's a blessing to have the time with you here, Jason. Thanks again.
My pleasure.
Now, you've got 2 older kids, as I do, and I know you had that transition of understanding that maybe we're not as much in control as we might have thought we were in the earlier years. But in this counselor season, it's really, is there a time where you realize that indeed your children are going to make their decision, and it is their decision, not your decision, whether they go on to school, whether they accept a job, go to VOTEC training, that type of thing. When did you see that as a dad with your older boys?
Yeah, probably about 19 years old.
That's about right, yeah?
Yes, sir.
I say the transition, you got the first 10 years as a teacher season, the next 10 years roughly are the coach season, and then anywhere from 18 to 25, you're moving into the counselor season. Now, what decision did your boys throw at you that you realize that, okay, that's your decision?
Right. Yeah, one of, I'd say my oldest son, Jason, say about a year ago, he said, I'm going to move with, this group of friends and they're going to rent out this house. And I didn't know who those guys were. So it was like, well, do you know them? Oh, yeah, they're cool. I'm like, I don't know these guys, so nothing against them, but I just don't know. So is that going to be a safe place? Is it a good opportunity? It's like, yeah, Dad, it's going to be fine. We're going to split the rent. Everything's going to work out. And a year later, it didn't. But to each his own. You gotta live it out, right?
And what you couldn't say is, I told you so.
Exactly.
It's their experience. It's their decision. They live with it, and we're there to if I use a word for the teacher season, it's intentionality. A word for the coach season is engagement. A word for the counselor season is availability. Right. Yes. So we're available to talk through some of those things.
Right,
I remember well when my daughter was going into college. And she had wanted to pursue a musical theater degree. She had the gift of voice and acting and wanted to chase Broadway. And I remember sitting across the dean of the School of Musical Theater's desk, and she had auditioned for the opportunity for us to spend money at this school. There was no scholarship available. No. It was if you'd have put a football under her arm, if she was as talented on the football field as she was with her voice, they'd have a full ride for her, right? But I just, as a dad and particularly as an engineering background, I thought, what's the plan B if she doesn't make it on Broadway? What's plan B? Is she going to be certified to teach? Whatever the case may be. And the dean did not look at me. He looked at her and
Mm.
said, if you need a backup plan, you're in the wrong industry.
Wow.
You're in the wrong
Wow.
degree. And I realized right then, I just turned to her and I said, honey, are you sure this is what you want to do? And she says, yes, I am, Dad. You know, those are times where you just say, okay,
Yeah. Okay. Right.
we're going to make a run for it. We're going to have fun. And so, that was the start of quite a journey for her.
Yes.
And, but it was a journey for us as well as dads, right? We have to
Absolutely.
realize that our kids are going to make decisions, and we're there. We've influenced them up to this point in time
Right.
for us to feel comfortable about their decisions. So, anything in particular, that letting go of this control. Like I said, I
Right.
don't know that we're ever as much in control as we think we are.
Right.
But
Right.
letting go of that, how have you counseled those older boys over the years now? When you're in this counselor season, can you share a little bit of how you counseled
Mhm.
through their decisions and their journey?
Sure. That's a great question. Through relationships, they, have had some girls that they were interested in, and both of them have had a girlfriend before. They're in the dating stage. They're learning about who they want to be with. They want to be married and things like that. And they've had some, just like a lot of people, some bad relationships and some good ones. But I've been able to share with them from my experiences, and they received it because I was authentic and said, "Hey, Dad didn't always make the right choice of women, and when I was dating and stuff like that." And so they respected me for that. I was able to share some things, and I believe they received it from me.
Mm,
Also, in the workforce and different things that they're desiring to do. One of them's interested in doing the military, so I've been in the military, so I'm able to share some experience, and they appreciate that for sure.
fantastic. So
Mhm.
there's some vulnerability on your
Vulnerability,
side
absolutely.
and transparency.
Yes,
So again, being
yes.
real with your son, letting them know maybe some of your journey. Not that I think that sometimes we
Mhm.
think that we can share an experience and they'll immediately get it that this isn't.
Right, right.
But that's never the case, is
No,
it? They still have to experience it themselves.
absolutely.
uh, how is this any ways that you might be able to encourage dads listening that when you moved into this counselor season, was there an aha moment and just said, I don't have the power
Yes.
to step in here. I've got to allow them to learn this lesson themselves.
Yeah, I would say definitely tips for dads and things that I've been through. You sometimes you have to allow them to struggle,
Mm-hmm.
meaning that you can't rescue them from
Mm,
everything. And some things are done by prayer, definitely releasing them to the Lord, but actually being there for them, in the ways that you can. And
mm-hmm.
I would say that might just be a listening ear, that might be an encouraging word. There's way different facets to do it. But I would say trusting God and letting go, but at the same time supporting them and then letting them know how much you love them. You might have to do some things to try to help them get back on their feet. But I would say giving them some choice words of wisdom and decision making, and allowing them to say, hey, if you make this decision, this might be a little harder path, but allowing them to make the decision,
Mm-hmm.
even if you don't agree with it.
Right. So you lay out some options, you lay out some candid
Correct.
discussion, but then you let
Yes.
go.
Absolutely.
And is there a faith component in that?
Oh yes. That's the hardest thing. Like, I think about my boys every day, and the ones that are out the house, because I don't see them every day, maybe once a year. And so they live in a whole different state. So I'm like, Lord, protect them, provide for them. I text message them, and like, they tell me sometimes. For me, it's a blessing. If they tell you the problem, that's a good thing,
Uh-huh.
because they're still communicating with you. Um, but it's man, trusting God. It's really hard. It can be hard sometimes, for
That
sure.
that undergirding of faith is important in
Yes,
that. I know,
absolutely.
one tip I always try to give dads, to kids, whether they're going off to college or going off to work or wherever the case may be, bought both kids a devotion. It's a
Hmm.
devotion I read every day still for 20, 30 years now. And that's the Oswald Chambers, My Utmost for His Highest.
No,
And I
that's
just
good.
wrote a note into each of them. I just said,
Hmm.
I'm reading this every day. I said, if
Hmm.
you're reading it and you have a question, please feel free to
Right.
call. And occasionally on a text, I'll just say, hey, Oswald got me this morning, and I just
Oh
say,
yeah.
so we'll have some dialogue along those
That's
lines
good.
to just say, hey, I'm thinking about you, I'm praying about you,
Hmm.
and praying for you as we go on. But how has this matured over the years as far as when they made a decision whether to pursue more education or
Hmm.
pursue VOTEC or when is have you talked about when enough education is enough?
Yeah, that's a great conversation with them. I've been able to talk to them, and they're very candid. One of them is going to school part time and working, and he's realizing, and he's like, Dad, I don't know if I. He said, I don't know if I want to do this or I want to go, like you said, Votech, or trying to make decisions, trying to navigate through it. It's not always
Mm-hmm.
easy, and realizing like, what maybe the 4 year traditional college is not for every kid.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's the tech, maybe it's a specific trade skill, different things. So being able to navigate those conversations to tell them, you know what, you might not do it how dad did it, but maybe something's different for you. And you really have to point them toward prayer and asking God, what's your purpose? What does God
Mm-hmm.
want you to do?
Mm-hmm.
And that gives a good perspective, based on them making decisions in the future based on their vocation.
So you have one that is pursuing some classwork
Yeah, absolutely.
and
Yeah,
and
he's
one that
doing
is
business
not.
administration, and one that's not. But he's choosing to work for a specific company and kind of go up the ladder, and it's been going well for him. He got promoted and different
Mm-hmm.
things like that.
Fantastic. So
Hmm.
that's the important thing is the mantra that college is for everybody is
Right.
not a truth.
Right. Exactly.
We have to understand that if a child knows exactly what they want to do and there's a university
Hmm.
degree that complements that and that opens doors for
Right.
them, then certainly go for it. If it's
Absolutely.
not, they need to find their bearings a little bit. Maybe a local college is
Yeah.
a good
Yeah.
way to go, or a junior college. My bride
Yes.
and I are
Absolutely.
both. I think you two are as well. You and
Absolutely.
Jennifer are both
Yeah.
junior college products.
Right.
So we're big advocates of getting some of the basics out of the way early.
Absolutely.
And there's some opportunities at the junior college level as well. So, uh, did you have some discussions around these options as the boys were leaving high school and moving into
Yes.
college?
In high school, we talked about a lot, whether they want to pursue, a specific skill, trade, or traditional college. We would talk about it. We would pray about it. We'd think about it. I exposed both of them to that military option as well, which I'm actually proud of that as well. Proud of 4 years in the Air Force, and just showing them different directions and what it could do,
Mm-hmm.
and they received that. They listen well. They still decide for themselves and still exploring some things, but they're at least moving in the direction of what they feel like they want to do. So that's
Mm-hmm.
good.
Mm-hmm. And this letting go thing is not an easy deal.
No, it's very difficult actually.
And how do you this availability thing is important as well. How do they know that you are available
Yes, great.
to either speak over
So
the phone or
yeah,
whatever the case may be?
sure. So we communicate through text message and then through phone calls. It's interesting. I think it was last month. Yeah, one of my sons called me at like 11:30 at night. Now, mind you, I'm in bed. I don't like, but he's a night owl. So I said, "Oh, hey, Elijah." So I'm like, I really don't want to talk that late, but I have to be available. I mean, if he's probably not going to call me again for a month if I don't answer, so because I'm not going to get the opportunity. He's very busy, but I answer when they call as much as I can.
Right. And are those discussions typically around relationships, around
Mhm.
profession, finances, a little
Yeah,
bit
lately it's
all?
been profession and relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're talking about, oh yeah, I'm doing good at work, and I just got a promotion or this is going well. I'm like, oh, that's great. What do you think about that? And, ask a little bit of advice stuff, but mostly letting me know what's going on in their life for
Hmm.
direction. And, like one of them was like, oh, I just broke up with my girlfriend. She wasn't happy, but I want to be more focused. And I was like, oh, that's great, on
Hmm.
his career and what God has for him. And I've been blessed enough to that my older kids are believers. So that's been amazing. So we have
Hmm.
faith talk as well.
So, what are there any specific things you do to let them know you're available, to be available without being
Yeah.
intrusive?
Yes, great question. So I let them know I love when you guys call me. I love, the text messages and all that. I would love to communicate as you see fit. I know you guys are busy, so I give
Hmm.
them their respect and they
Hmm.
receive it well.
Hmm.
Hmm.
I know I use that time as well when even though you let go, our son was local, so I was able
Hmm.
to every month or so we'd have a lunch and
Oh,
just try
okay.
to have a
Yeah.
lunch to get caught up because, like you say, I mean, we raise our children to be independent,
Right,
and
right.
then we wonder why they don't call every week. Well, and that's just something you have to get over. Now I
Yeah.
do remind them to this day to
Mhm.
call your mom every week.
Oh, yeah, yeah. It's different. You got to call your
She
mom every
brought you
week.
in this world. She
Yeah,
needs to
it's
hear from
different.
you.
Yes, she does. Mom needs
So
that.
that that's some respect that you have to encourage all the way
Yes.
around. But so you've had some good discussions, and of course now you're at this transition time with your oldest daughter
Mhm.
as well.
Right.
What kind of discussions have you had there as far as college versus VOTEC,
Right.
whatever? Yeah.
But we've talked about that's great. We've talked about um, the different options that are available,
Hmm.
different choices. What's on her heart? What do you really want to do? What's on your heart? What do you want to? How do you want to serve people? And she shared about the counseling, which was amazing. We talked about the different universities that have options, and even the local junior colleges that have options. We talked about the foundational coursework. Said, hey, you can do some coursework in the beginning, and then you can transfer. I explained to her that it's a much more easier transition financially, mentally, if she wants to start part time and still work. So I'm giving her these different options. And like, she's like, yeah, I'm noticing some of the kids, they go to school, they don't know really what they want to do. They're just going just to go. And then I'm like, yeah, I think you should go with intentionality and understanding and, some sort of direction.
Right.
And so
Right.
she's getting it. She's understanding it
Mm.
very well. She says she wants to go to college. She told me, she said, Dad, I know college is not for everybody, but she's like, it is for me. So
Mm.
that's good discussion.
That's a great discussion because
Hmm.
that's the perspective, and of course, there's a financial component to this as
Yes,
well, isn't there? I mean, you have to
absolutely.
understand that there are ways that we can get in school. There's
Hmm.
scholarships available. There's savings that we may
Absolutely.
contribute to. It's never a free ride,
No.
and there may be, in some cases, student loans are an
Hmm.
option, or other
Right.
opportunities out there, other scholarships that you can apply for. But it's that challenge to really think this thing all the way through. What kind of
Yes.
debt am I going to come out of school with? Or
Yes.
is the degree I'm working on supportive of this investment?
Right.
Those
Right.
types of conversations are pretty candid. And the same with certification. Some
Oh,
of these
absolutely.
certifications can get pretty expensive as well. What kind of job guarantee is there, and
Right.
what kind of job opportunities are there with this Votech group? You have to run the traps, don't you?
Right.
And
Absolutely.
help your child understand that while you're there to help them, their
Hmm.
responsibility is to really help discern whether this is the direction they want to go.
Right.
That's not unlike an athlete.
No.
That very few athletes that may have some type of scholarship
Right.
playing sports in at the next level in college understand that's an 8 hour a day job,
Oh,
and
absolutely.
and for them to take responsibility for that requires a parent to really sit down and have a pretty candid
Mhm.
discussion about this is a key dimension of your life. But so is your education,
Right,
and are you
right.
going to be able to work with both of these aspects? And because both of them build you up into I can't, myself. I know you played some college
Mhm.
sports as well. These were foundational to some of the discipline I needed to get through school. Was a
Right,
discipline that I
absolutely.
had in the athletic arena. So these are things that kids can really build on. And
Mhm.
as we look at the different ways our children are are working, whether it be in band, theater, sports,
Hmm.
or in Votech. These are things that we can really encourage our kids on.
Yes.
So, do you have any last words of encouragement for dads that are in this last season
Yes.
of back to school time with their
Right.
children?
I would say, Rick, in this last season, everyone who was watching, really get to know your kids, really understand where they're coming from, what their mindset is, even if you don't agree, even if you don't like it, because what'll happen is it'll allow you permission to build a more stronger relationship. It'll allow them to gain a respect for you, and you're building something right now that once they go to school, they go, they get their job and they go independent. It's going to determine your future with them, on how, and even with your grandkids. And so, whatever your relationship with them is now, can build upon that, earn that respect, that trust, and that faith, and God can move upon that in a
Mhm.
mighty way.
Fantastic. Great tip. So now we've come full circle. We talked
Yes.
about relationship in it's the 3 R's of education, that the relationship is number one, education in the home. That's the relationship with Christ, living that relationship in marriage and reflecting it in family. And that will manifest into a solid relationship with your adult children as they start to make decisions about that next chapter of life, that chapter of life that takes them into a university, a local college, a career, a Votech career. These are the things that we're enabling our children to really follow their bent and to begin to build their own personal, passionate relationship with Jesus the Christ. So, Dad, take that responsibility seriously. Again, always work with that secret weapon. It's a mom to ensure that you're engaged at the right level. And in this particular season, letting go in love, but being available as children may need you to extend your counsel, your wisdom in this stage of life. So keep up the good work. Thank you again, Jason, for your time.
Thank
And dads, just take these words to heart. Be engaged through the coach season, and then in this counselor season, be available as your children need the counsel that you and your bride can provide through this new chapter of life. That's the dad you're called to be. That's the dad the next generation needs. God bless. Godspeed.